You want an international emergency treaty to end fossil fuel use, basically all fossil fuel use by 2030. This isn't about not being allowed to buy a diesel car in 2030. This isn't about having to use solar power panels on your house. All fossil fuel use ended by 2030. Tell me what you think the impact of that would be on people's everyday lives.
So we acknowledge that this will be it will require an emergency response, and it will require a massive change in the way that we live our lives.
Tell us the impact.
However,
no, not however. What will the impact be of people not using fossil fuel in 2030? Tell us what the impact would be. What would your everyday life be like and mine?
What will the impact be if we keep using fossil fuels?
No, that wasn't the question,
Ella.
Question.
Because if we do that, we will face collapse of the NHS.
We're all going to die. We're all going to die. Yes, we're all going to die. What is the impact, 2030, us no longer using fossil fuels?
So this has been detailed quite heavily on the Justable website, and I encourage anyone that's listening.
So tell us. You must have read it. You're an activist.
Things like funding free public transport. It will include insulating homes. There's a lot more steps to this, but you're absolutely right.
No, Ella, with all due respect, you're not answering my question. If we don't use fossil fuels, we can't build anything anymore. That requires it. We won't be able to operate trains. Most of our cars won't operate, including, by the way, the electric cars, because electric cars are actually, by the way, they're made using fossil fuels, usually in factories on the other side of the world who use fossil fuels to make them. We won't even be able to keep the lights on most of the time, put heating on. We won't be able to have aircon when it's hot, when we're burning. We won't be able to heat our homes when it's cold, when, by the way, more people die by a factor of 9 to 1. We won't be able to get planes. We won't be able to travel anywhere. I don't know how we're going to be running ferries and boats so we can travel at all. We won't be able to have mobile phones. We won't be able to have cookers. How do you think life is going to be in 2031, or even indeed 2 days after we stop using fossil fuels in 2030? Because you seem to be very blasé about that. What you're looking at is turning us back to pre-industrial revolution times, when life was really bloody hard.
Well, Julia, you're forgetting that renewable energy exists, so we absolutely can still have energy. But
clarify. So let me clarify. Do you know how much the percentage of our actual energy use is renewable energy at the current time, and how much you predict it will be by 2030?
I'm aware that it needs to increase, and this is why we need an emergency plan right now in 2024.
It's not even all of our 20% need for electricity. So what are you going to do for the rest of it?
Julia, this is why we're calling on our government to enact this emergency plan to stop the burning and use of fossil fuels by 2030. This is why we need an emergency plan.
You think we're going to be able to replace all of our fuel needs by 2030? It's 2020. We're halfway through 2024. You think by 2030 we'll be able to replace all of our fossil fuel needs with renewables?
It's absolutely an ambitious plan, but
the
alternative is accepting that we're going to be facing mass death.
We're going to face. So remind me, how are we facing mass death? Remind me, how are we facing mass death if we don't do this?
Well, basically, there's a climate crisis, and we're pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which is heating the planet to unlivable temperatures.
Unlivable temperatures. Nothing in the IPCC report says that.
It does. It talks
about it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Nothing in the report say that.
There's temperatures that humans can grow food inside of, and they can survive within.
There is nothing whatsoever predicting any of that. I mean, you need to read up on this thing you care so strongly about, Ella.
Julia, we know for a fact that if we keep heating the planet in this way, there will be massive crop failure. This is already
we've seen, as you say, the planet is warming. We've had higher crop yields in recent years with a warmer planet. Funny that, isn't it? I just like to say, come on any time. But I do think you need to read up on the subject, which is something you've been arrested, you've even been convicted a few times. You care so strongly about this topic that you know absolutely nothing about, which I find extraordinary.